Welcome to the In the Group Chat podcast.
Olly, how you doing, man?
Hello, Sonny. I'm very well. How are you?
I'm well.
How is life treating you?
Ironically, drinking a Corona.
Coronavirus. Yes.
Coronavirus.
To be fair, I think it makes it taste all the most sweeter.
Is it bittersweet or is it just sweet?
Sweet? It is sweet. Yeah. I think I'm one of the few people maybe during lockdown that my alcohol intake has decreased.
Yeah, my actually, I don't know, because we used to drink after work quite a lot.
Probably two days a week, a solid Thursday and then a Friday. If people are
Yeah,
about.
I do miss that. I do miss those socials, if I'm honest. Olly, man, how are you? I've missed you.
I'm good, Sonny. Thank you for having me. It has been a roller coaster of a 2020, and I'm sure it's going to be a good 2021 as long as everything goes swimmingly well with everything that's coming out. And
yeah, it's a bit of a weird kind of thing. In my last episode, I was talking about how life is like a bubble. Where
a social bubble?
No, not a social bubble. More like how within my bubble there are things I can control, but outside my bubble, news, what's happening in America, COVID, what's happening like all over the world, I can't control.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the things that have probably like mentally affect us the most.
I could not agree with you more on that point.
But from my perspective, I can't control it. So I'm
Yeah.
like, fuck it, why am I worrying about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very, very good point. I have fortunately and unfortunately, I have suffered from mental health issues.
Yeah.
So that's a very valid point. I don't know if you want to discuss that in full now. I don't know if you want to discuss that in full later.
Well,
we can get into it now if you want.
I've certainly got that.
It's a heavy place to start.
Yeah. Start from a morbid.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Okay, let's start with the bad. Actually, when somebody says to you, "Do you want the good news or the bad news first?" What do you say?
Just give me the news.
I always say bad news because then the good news hopefully makes up for the bad news that you've just received.
Yeah, I'm very much of a just give me the news and I'll decide what's good and what's bad.
Yeah, fair.
But again, that all relates to that subject we just breached as well. Your mind is a strange place. It's a strange place, and very, very few people in this world can control their mind properly.
Yeah.
It's just everyone's different.
So I'm going to put a placeholder in your mind as a strange place.
Yeah.
But before we get into that topic of importance.
Yes.
Let's get to know Olly. Olly, man, what's going on? Tell us a little bit about you. What do you do? How old are you?
Oh, ASL.
Yeah.
ASL. MSN days.
Hey, ASL.
Yeah.
Hey, wait. Hey, thanks for the ad.
Yeah.
ASL.
Lol. Yeah. So my name's Olly. I work with Sonny. We've struck up quite a good friendship from that, so it's I'm happy to be here. In terms of myself, I think it's I've had I would say an interesting, of some description to some people, an interesting life. My background, grew up on and around farms for most of my life, so my family background were farmers. They left for a period and then went back to it. I grew up in the I don't know how to describe it. The flattest place on earth in Lincolnshire, in Spalding.
Okay.
It was just field after field after field, and the odd town here and there. So grew up there, and then went to university. Ended up going to Leeds. So if you pick on my accent, it
Leeds University.
Leeds. My accent is a mongrel of an accent. So I've got a bit of the yellow belly Lincolnshire. I was harassed into having as much northern in me as possible when I lived up north. So I have a bit of north in me, and then since I've been back further down south and then now living in London, it's mixed up again. So yeah, went to uni in Leeds, went to Leeds Met, studied history. Don't ask me why.
I would not have taken you for a history.
No one ever does. In all honesty, it was just I just wanted to get away. I just wanted to to live my own life and get away from.
I actually find history quite interesting.
So do I.
I have a really weird fascination with World War II.
I think that's primarily and predominantly because it's one of the only things they teach us in history at school.
I think for me, I had a teacher, Mr. Bethel, at primary school.
Shout out.
Year 5. Yeah, Mr. Bethel, if you're still alive. Like, he was a pretty old lad.
Yeah.
And he was born in 1944, I think, at the time. And he was really passionate about World War II, and he said, you know, a lot of his dad fought in World War II, and it was always very interesting to me. Ever since I've been really fascinated about life at war in World War II, I was really excited recently that Saving Private Ryan is now on Netflix.
Yes, that's a hell of a film.
Which is the greatest war film I have ever seen.
That's a big shout.
But I do love my war films. I, for one, probably don't have the bottle to be a soldier. That's a big thing to go in war.
So it's interesting you say that. So my dream job when I was a kid was to be a fighter pilot.
Okay,
to be in the RAF, be a fighter pilot. Unfortunately, due to eyesight issues, e.g. glasses, that was sort of knocked on the head from an early age. Well, not early age. I think I quite naively thought you could be a fighter pilot with glasses when you're doing X amount of G, and that doesn't work really. But
surely they would have overcome that by now. Like,
no, because you can't. I don't think, someone I'm sure will correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think even if you have laser, you have to have perfect 20/20 vision.
That's crazy.
But it makes sense because you're pulling absurd G, so contact lenses won't stay in your eyes.
Yeah,
you can't wear a set of glasses in an airplane.
Yeah, because you can't be doing 300 miles an hour in the air and your glasses fall off and you're looking down, looking at them.
You break the speed of sound and your glasses just go, oh, sorry. And I think with laser, I think it's because you can regress from lasers, a surgery. You can, get worse again. But anyway, so yeah, I would like to think I've got the temperament, but I think I've now turned into a city softie.
City softie.
Yeah, and probably don't have the temperament for it anymore.
Yeah, I guess I guess you got to be a certain type of person. I think it's sort of, I don't know if it's mental strength, and I just think you've got to have something driving you.
Here's a thought, food for thought. So people say that we're currently at war with this virus.
Yeah.
And if you think of what an impact it's had on ours, yours, mine, mental health in general. Yep. Now times that by probably 1 million. If you're actually in a war zone and there is like things going off around you all the time, like you said earlier on, the news affects you. Yeah. Or imagine a bomb going off next to the side of your head.
Yeah, of course.
So I think that's. I think I'm not comparing what we're doing currently to the fantastic people that are out in the world fighting the wars. Yeah. But I do think it definitely sort of highlights that they do go through some stress. Yeah. Proper stress.
I wonder if that level of stress matches what the NHS are going through.
There have been comparisons between battlefield hospitals.
Because it is like, because I hear my aunt, she takes I don't know what the medical term is, but she's the woman that will take your blood test in a hospital, take it, look at the results.
A nurse?
Is it nurse, or do they have a speciality? I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not sure. Maybe it is a nurse.
We'll go with nurse.
Okay. So my mum's friend is a nurse, and she I remember her saying that, you know, you take someone's blood test, you'll go with the results, and then you'll come back to give them the results, and they'll be dead. They won't be there. The bed will be cleared. Over a matter of hours.
Jeez.
Like the stories are that a person deteriorates so much, so fast, that that's just
that is mad, and that I do think that's probably why I think a lot of what people see in the media, the numbers that are attached, and they say it's 28 days, don't they? Since 28 days after a diagnosis is the most critical time for people, and that would make perfect sense. If they can deteriorate so quickly, that it would lend itself to being quite a aggressive virus as it is.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah.
You have a pretty cool YouTube page. Tell us about naturally aspirated cars.
So some people would say it's interesting, e.g. me and you, because we like cars. Some people would probably give it 2 seconds and say, nah. But since I was a kid, always loved cars. I've always really been into my cars.
Yeah.
To be fair, I wouldn't say transport, but I like planes, I liked motorbikes, I like cars, tractors, obviously being on the farm.
Do you know what? I found that I'm weirdly fascinated by space. And I was thinking about what about space fascinates me. I can't tell you what planets we have in our solar system in order.
Yeah.
Because I don't care about that.
Yeah.
What I care about is space travel and technology.
It's the idea of it, isn't it, as opposed to the actual practical side of it.
Well, both sides, like the movie Martian with Matt Damon.
Not seen it.
Man, that is an awesome film. Like the way they kind of show you all the vehicles, all the technology that would allow someone to travel to Mars.
Yeah.
Incredible. Like I love it.
Yeah.
And the Apollo missions fascinate me so much.
Yeah.
Because it's crazy how people with the level of technology they had in the 1960s can send someone to the moon is mind-blowing.
Well, they say, isn't it, something like your mobile phone now is 1,000 times more powerful than the computing power on the first shuttles to the moon.
I was fortunate enough to get a trip to the NASA space station in Houston, in Texas.
Oh, I've been to Cape Canaveral in Florida.
That's where I want to go. that is my next big destination. But they did say, I was in the mission control room where they ran the Apollo missions, and they did say that the computing power is like 10 megabytes or something like that. Don't quote me on this. It's something like that. And he did say, if you take a couple of pictures on your phone, you've used up the computing power that the NASA astronauts and scientists had in those days. Which is crazy.
Mad, isn't it? It's mad. Yeah, I do think. I think with the YouTube channel, myself, it's of me a few friends that we've all got cars. I don't know why, but I own 2 in central London. I like to punish myself. But I think the way we see it is, I think cars now have become more of a commodity as opposed to something to enjoy.
Yeah.
We're moving towards a model now of self-driving cars, electrified cars.
Sorry, that's my phone going off there.
Very professional. We're moving to a model now where I think soon transport and cars won't be cars how we used to know it. You would have a cube in your drive, you tell it where you want to go, and it will take you there, and you essentially sit in a lounge.
I also think the infrastructure around us is changing. Have you seen these temporary blockers that they've put around London to stop cars?
Yes.
But your sat-nav doesn't know.
Yes.
It's the most frustrating fucking thing ever.
Yeah. There was a couple in Hackney which I had to... I saw and I swore quite profusely at them.
Yeah.
The 2 cars that I've got, one's an old hatchback, an Alfa Romeo 147 GTA, which...
I wouldn't call it old. That car is an absolute fucking beast.
It is still old. It's 2004.
Wow.
So it's not young by any stretch of the imagination. We're getting older, Sonny. Don't forget that we are getting older. It's not, but it's so analog compared to what we're used to these days.
Yeah.
My second car is a Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT, which is the epitome of an American car in the UK.
Yeah.
Huge 6.4 litre V8, naturally aspirated, as the name suggests, and it also weighs 2.5 tons. It's probably the worst car I possibly have in London. It's also wider than 2 meters, which
I mean, at least your social distancing if you're sitting on either side.
So even I've had issues where some places have not roadblockers but like width restrictors anyway to stop vans and lorries and stuff going down roads.
Yeah.
And I've been a gnat's bollock hair off scraping both sides of my car. So yeah, London's not a kind place to be a car fan. I don't think it's the best idea having the cars I do, but
What's the point of the YouTube channel? What are you trying to do? Is it just for yourself to be creative, or is it more for yourself to be more for other people to learn about cars?
I think it's a little bit of everything, really. Me and my friends, we do talk about cars a lot, and how we talk about them and what we talk about, I wouldn't call us anoraks by any stretch of the imagination. I can sit here and list off some facts, but I can't list off some of the facts that some of the geezers do.
Yeah.
But it's more of an enjoyment of cars, and especially with this year and not being able to see people or interact with people and stuff like that. It's a good thing to do to stay social, essentially.
Yeah, I hear that.
I started it off with my flatmates at the time, and then it's living situations have changed, but we still do it and we can still manage it appropriately to the guidelines at the time. But really, it's just our story of our cars, really, what we do with them. So I have an old hatchback. My mate has a 205 GTI, which is an old.
I've seen the Jag.
Yeah,
the Jag's nice.
The Jag is nice, yeah. So that's good as well. One of the other lads, he's actually based in Hong Kong.
Okay.
And which is a completely different world. So he's doing what he can out there.
What's the car vibe like in Hong Kong?
Nuts.
Is it?
It's
can we say it's any good just because the movies from that?
Cars, you have to have an absurd amount of money due to the import tax.
Okay.
So when you see if you see a Ferrari, you know they've paid close to £1 million for it, even though it could be just like the base standard Ferrari. They're still paying stupid money for it. So if you see a Bugatti, they're paying, I think it's something like 200% import tax. It's mental. So it's serious cash as well. Don't forget, Hong Kong is a very small place as well. So the infrastructure, how much it costs to have a garage in Hong Kong would be mentally expensive.
Right.
In comparisons to, you can go out to the countryside in the UK and it'll be cheap as chips to have a garage.
And aren't mopeds the way to get around?
I think public transport is the way to get around in general. If you have a car, it's more of a flex than anything. It's,
okay.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, do you wanna give the page a little shout out?
Yeah.
Check out.
Give us a follow on just naturally aspirated on YouTube. It's got a little black and white logo. We do have an Instagram. It's naturally_aspirated_cars. Find us on there, and just if you enjoy cars, just send us a message. We just want to talk to people really about them.
Awesome.
In short.
Now, your dad's a farmer.
He is.
He is. How long has he been a farmer? His whole life, or?
So my granddad was a dairy farmer.
Okay.
So my dad grew up on the farm, obviously. He coincidentally did a similar thing to me. So he left the farm, probably the same age as me, around 2021, I think, to do different things. So he left until he was. Well, he left to go to London, lasted in London about a couple of years, I think, if that, and then went into agricultural insurance. So he was in and around farms then, so advising on it, and then carried on that with other ventures and stuff. So he was in and around. Then he went back to farming and started up again about 10, 15 years ago. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but he's back at it, and he has a farm again now, or his own one. So yeah, always growing up at most family friends, growing up from my dad's side of things were farmers. So I've grown up around agricultural machinery and
tractors
and fields,
everything. Awesome. Has Brexit played a big part in sort of the future of farming? Is that quite is that something you could speak to, or is that something that
depends who you ask. I tend not to get involved as much with that sort of stuff, just because I'm quite far removed from it at the moment. My dad doesn't really export anything into Europe; it's all consumed in the UK. So from that side of things, it won't affect business at all. So he's got no extra red tape or anything like that. I believe there is conversations around regulations in farming currently. I'm sure everyone's heard about the mutant American meats that they'd say that they could come across, the chickens in a can or whatever it is. Yeah,
chicken or something.
Yeah, so I think they're as yet to be finalised. But the way the farm's set up, it is free to roam, as old school traditional husbandry methods as possible for the animals.
Yeah.
and I don't think there'd be a great effect really on the farm.
Do you know? It's funny you say regulation. I don't know if you know, and it hasn't been. It hasn't been very common in the British media, but there's been a lot going on in India about the farmers' protests and what's going on there. Have you come across anything?
I've come across it a couple of times. I've seen obviously videos doing the rounds on social media, which were appalling.
Do you know what's happening?
I don't know the ins and outs. If I'm being really honest, I know that a lot of people have walked to protest. I'm not exactly sure of what it is. I'm being quite. I probably should know.
No, do you know what? It's actually difficult because it took me a while to understand exactly what's going on. But I just want to read something out. So
Yep.
I asked a couple of people on my Instagram what is actually going on, and someone from a credible source can perhaps enlighten me.
Mhm.
But so Modi, the Indian Prime Minister,
PM Olly,
who's a wanker, he's passed three bills that essentially mean large corporations do not have a base rate when it comes to paying farmers for crops.
Dios mío.
This means that large corporations can exploit farmers.
Well, it means they can haggle down to where the farmers start paying them,
and
essentially.
literally pay farmers fuck all.
Yeah.
So already in India, the farming price and farmers are struggling.
Yep.
Like, I don't know if you know, but the suicide rate on farmers, especially in the state of Punjab, where I'm from,
Yeah.
the large agricultural export is sort of, farming essentially.
Yeah.
And over the last, say, 30 years, the amount of money made from farming has been getting lower and lower, and these farmers have really been struggling. So essentially, it's like getting rid of minimum wage.
Right,
when you're already working on 10 days,
Yep.
£10 for the whole day.
Yeah.
And essentially, what the farmers have done, primarily from Punjab and Haryana, is travel over 200 miles on foot, tractor, coach, whatever, to Delhi, and they've blocked the 4 or 5 main intersections that lead into Delhi. So imagine them blocking, the M20, the M4, the M1,
Just
the
M25 in
M40.
general, basically.
Imagine them blocking
yeah.
all the major routes to the M25. And they've been peacefully protesting. And it's been 2 months since they've been on the streets. And they've been like, the way the Indian government have clashed with them has been like
it's been violent, hasn't it?
It's been
Yeah.
violent. Like, it's been violent clashes against people. I don't know the current stat, but I think it's got to over 100 people have died because of this. And man, I just wanted to know what your take was. Imagine, like, I don't want to say imagine if this was your dad, but I want to say imagine if this was British farmers.
Well, there is I wouldn't say a direct comparison, but there is a comparable thing that happened. So basically, the dairy farming in the UK, that used to be a huge industry in the UK, but it shut down essentially, and my granddad included. But it was shut down just because companies could buy milk cheaper from other places than they could from UK suppliers. And so dairy farms essentially had to close because no one in the UK was buying their milk, and they could get milk cheaper from other places. So that's probably my comparison with it. I wouldn't want to say on here if anyone. I know there was protests, but I don't think there was the level of this, for instance.
I think the reason why this is so big is because a lot of people in the north of India depend on farming for their livelihood so much.
What's the main? Is it what are they growing most of? Is it rice?
I don't know actually. I think it might be wheat. Let me have a look. But
because I wouldn't be surprised if it's got something to do with something cheap coming from China somewhere along the line.
Let's have India's biggest farming exports: apples, bananas, beans, greens, carrots, turnips.
I was well off.
Well, this is Wikipedia. It's not the most credible source.
What do you mean? It is the most credible source?
Cashew nuts, cauliflowers, cherries, chickpeas, chilies, peppers, green and dry, coconuts, coffee, cucumbers, garlic, ginger, lemons, mangoes, melons, mushrooms, onions, oranges, papayas, peaches, pears, pineapple, potatoes, rice, soybean, sugarcane, sweet potatoes, tea, tobacco. Of course, you've got things like things like tamarind.
I probably what I would say on that then I think is big business and it's so there's so many things at play because India as a country have gone through a vast change in a very short period of time. I'm not saying they should stop. I'm saying they should continue. However, coincidentally, I did study a little bit of India at university. My dissertation was on the economic rise of India after decolonisation, with a specific focus on the car industry.
Okay.
So that's a specific title for you. But so I had a bit of a vested interest in looking at the economy of India and where it is, and the BRIC countries, so Brazil, Russia, India, China, and how they've risen essentially.
Yeah.
Big business is going to play a part in this somewhere. So you look at they're not going to screw out the big guys out of cash. They never do. No, governments never do.
Yeah. It's crazy. We've seen shows like House of Cards. We've seen how governments are influenced by large corporations with large sums of money.
Yeah. Well, you look at China, the biggest communist entity on the planet. Yet it also has the most amount of millionaires and billionaires per head out of any country in the world. Well, that's not communism, is it?
That's crazy.
So there's that. What I think it's very hard to comment specifically on this. What I would say from what I've seen, it's fucking atrocious. I've been to India. I know a lot of very hardworking Indian people, and for them to be essentially shat on by the government is a piss take. What can they do about it? They can continue what they are doing. They can do that. How much that affects the government, and unfortunately, I think India is a victim of its own success sometimes in terms of it's a fucking big country and there's a fuck ton of people in it.
And there is an extraordinarily high level of corruption as well. So Modi, the Prime Minister, I don't know, India like has a history. It just happens to be that a lot of the farmers are from Punjab, and you know the agricultural significance of farming in Punjab is so high. You know, it's just shit because people from Punjab have always been shat on. If you by multiple different nations, and especially India as well. I don't know if you know the history between India and the state of Punjab, but I'm
pretty
aware
of
volatile.
it, but I wouldn't say I'm an expert on it by any show.
I won't get into it now because I will certainly
we could go down a rabbit hole here.
No, I know. I will certainly be corrected by my history, but I know the basic crux of it, and you know, it is crazy, and we have seen a lot of support from British farmers actually posting stuff on Instagram saying they support the Kisan farmer protests.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's more industries that do support it, because if you look at the UK and its history with industries that have collapsed, you're looking at your coal industries, your wool industry, all that sort of stuff. The motoring industry as well. It's not, I wouldn't say it's collapsed, but it's certainly shrunk.
For example.
Yeah, mining.
Yeah.
They have collapsed and have decimated areas of the country. If you go to the north of England and you go to some of the old mining towns, they have just not recovered. Yeah. And there's a lot of anger and angst within the communities there because they have not been supported. They feel like they've been forgotten about. You made a very valid point about the suicide rate of farming. Okay. Yeah. That's across all farming everywhere. I think it's one of the most, if you call it dangerous job because of the death rate. Yeah. Farming is a lonely job, especially if you're a lone farmer. Imagine if you are a family farm. You have the dad normally, the mum, and let's just say they've got 2 kids. Let's say the 2 kids are of school age, and the mum has to either A, look after them, or B, supplement the income to the farm because it's not doing well enough. Because a lot of farms aren't doing. People have this mindset that farmers are wealthy individuals. Yeah. Unless you have a fuck off sized estate or have got generations of land, farms are not a wealthy place to be. So they got one individual person doing everything, but they're just sat on the road all the time. They're in a tractor.
That's crazy. I didn't
They're
think
in
of
a
it
they're
that
in a
way.
shed. They're going to the local feed shop to buy more feed,
Yeah.
and that's probably the only interaction they'll get that day, apart from the pigs that they're with or the
You know,
cows
you
they're
always
with.
you always have this iconic image of the happy farmer.
Oh,
Know.
there's a reason for that, because the media need for it to be seen as farming as a happy thing. If the
Yeah.
farmer stops tomorrow, there would be no produce for anyone anywhere in the world. If all farmers just downed their tools.
Yeah, I think we do take for granted how essential farming is, not just in India, not just in Punjab, but all over the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I doth my cap to my dad. Like, there is a reason why I am not at the farm currently, because it is an unenviable job.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
That I go back and help, all that sort of stuff. I do not class myself as a farmer by any stretch of the imagination. I can help on the farm. My dad is the farmer.
Yeah.
I can drive tractors. I learned to drive tractors before I learned to drive cars. I'm still not a farmer.
Yeah.
My dad's the farmer. And yeah, I see the effect it has on my dad on a daily basis. And selfishly, do I want that? Well, I'm not there, am I? So I'll let the listeners be the judge of that and what kind of person I am. But it's a fucking hard job.
Yeah,
really
I'm not,
fucking hard
I'm
job.
not surprised. It's you know.
So put it this way. So I've done the harvests, okay?
Yeah.
In modern UK, you've got combines that drive themselves. You've got tractors that essentially drive themselves in most cases now. You've got huge equipment. You've got all of this essentially luxury equipment. So we're in a much, much more privileged position than the farmers in India who are maybe still using animals to pull machinery or anything like that.
A tractor or two.
But what that does is enables people to be worked harder for longer. They're just facilitators for hard. So you still have to be the person sat in the tractor, even though you start at 6 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning, and you go until it's too damp, essentially. So if you've got a dry evening, that combine could potentially go throughout the night.
Yeah.
So now imagine if you're a lone farmer and you have to get a work experience guy in to come and help you from their agricultural college in the summer to run the trailer for you. If you miss a day, if it gets wet, you could lose a whole field. That could be tens of thousands of pounds. And these guys are running at a really tight margin as it is anyway. You could lose £10,000. That could be the dinner on the kids' plates for the next 6 months.
That's crazy because I think, you know, sometimes I'm sitting at my desk job working and I'm like, oh, fuck, I've got a cold.
Yeah.
Got a cough. Can't be asked.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a pull of sickie. Farmers can't pull a sickie.
No.
Especially if you're a lone farmer. You know, you've got to get out.
So
you've got to work.
Yeah, so my dad has health issues. He's getting older. he does.
Yeah.
He refuses to slow down and stop. Refuses it. He says this will be the end of me.
And is that out of I'm assuming that's out of pure necessity, not
I think it's two
not
things.
The drive, not the. I don't want to say drive, but like almost having, you know, what am I going to do? Like
I think it's two things. One, it's out of necessity. It is. Yeah. Two, my dad generally does love it as well.
Okay.
It is a vocation, a farmer.
Yeah.
It is a vocation, which I find quite interesting when you see people who grew up in suburbia, who go off to agricultural college to become a farm manager or something like that. I don't know how many of them last. I don't have any numbers or anything like that, but I'd be interested to find out, like, the people that are not from farming backgrounds who actually go into farming or farm management or agriculture of some description and last for a long time in it. I don't think it's many. And that's why you're seeing a lot of the big family farms now, these big estates and stuff, are not run by the farmers anymore. They're run by big conglomerates. Like there's an estate near my dad who is not run by the landowners anymore. It is run by a big, essentially a consultancy farming company who come in, put their own farm manager in. They supply the equipment. It's all contracted, and then the farmer takes whatever the farm makes, and the percentage off the top goes off to the consultancy company. A lot of people don't realise that. I can tell you now, there's a lot of farms that do that now.
Wow.
Just because of the pure effort that goes into it. It's crazy. It is crazy. Farmers, shout out to all the farmers.
Yeah, shout out to the farmers all over the world.
Keep doing your things.
Man, that's a crazy job. I that's another job that I would certainly. I don't think I would if I was born into it, I think it would be different. But looking at it from an outsider, I think it's such a underdog job.
It's
You know,
a forgotten about industry.
Yeah, people just don't give it the respect that it deserves, because they're essentially feeding us.
Do you know what the bit that gets me every single year? This will be the last thing I say on it, because I can go on for hours now, farming. In the middle of summer, if you ever get the chance, if in the middle of summer and you're on, and I don't know why, you might be listening to the radio, for instance. Radio 1, I'll just say Radio 1 because that's what I listen to. And you're driving somewhere and you want to do the shout outs.
Yeah.
Listen to how many of the shout outs at 11 o'clock at night are for young farmers in their tractors listening to the radio.
Okay.
And it is literally every other one at that point. Because they are sat, and I've been this person, I have sat in the tractor at 11, 12, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes. Just sat there. You can't, there's no TVs in the tractor.
Yeah.
You can't have a TV in a tractor. It is pitch black because you're in the middle of the countryside. All you have is the sound of a combine going in the background and the radio. That's all it is.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the last I'll say on it.
Shout out to all the farmers.
Shout out.
Yeah, these farmers. It's crazy. It doesn't matter how much money you have. You know, if farmers aren't doing their job, you're not going to be able to buy anything. Your food, your money is useless. It's crazy. So shout out to the farmers out there. We hope this protests and, you know, what's going on in India gets resolved super fast, because, look, man, this is hurting some lives. This is hurting livelihoods out there. But yeah, Ollie, thanks for that.
Right. Anytime.
Now, moving away from, you know, the farmers, that was an interesting conversation, actually. It's nice to get your perspective on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're in the midst of this lockdown. What have you been doing to keep yourself occupied?
Working predominantly. I think
it's a bit of a blurred line between when's home life and when's work life.
Yeah, that's. I interestingly, I had a conversation with some ladies in the opticians today.
In the opticians,
the optician ladies, about this. I have quite strong feelings on the matter, in terms of the impact that it's had socially, in general, socially, on mental health in general, and also how different people are with things.
Okay.
So I'm going to try and tread as accurately and as carefully as I can on this subject, because I know it affects different people in different ways.
Okay.
So for me, when I get anxious, and I'm inherently an anxious person, genetically I'm an anxious person.
I have to say, I've known you for 2 years now, and you don't come across like that.
It's a lot of work. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
I do get that.
Yeah. Well, I can talk about that as well, but with anxiety, the way I manage it is you control the controllables. So if you can't control something, to your point earlier, the news and stuff like that, you can't control it, so why should it technically affect you?
Yeah.
But it does.
So that's what I was talking about earlier, and I don't know if when it comes to editing I cut it out or not. I can't remember how early it was. But I was talking about my last episode 2, where I was talking about life is like a bubble.
Mm-hmm.
So anything outside of your bubble, you can't control.
No.
You can see it, but you can't control it. You can't touch it.
Yeah.
Anything inside your bubble, you can.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the things you should think about if you can actively control it.
Yeah, so on that point, so growing up, I think I made my anxieties worse by sometimes, when you're a kid, you exaggerate things, you blow things up, which maybe don't really mean
metaphorically
a lot.
speaking.
Yeah, metaphorically speaking, yeah. Like make things bigger things than they should be, or all that sort of stuff. Because you think it's either cool at the time to do, or it's something that people will want to see or hear, and you sometimes care about what other people's opinions are.
Yeah,
so
I can resonate with that for sure.
So you pump them up to be more than they are. And I would probably say that I did that a lot until 2 years ago, maybe. So when I was until I was about 25, 26, probably. And it stopped because I realised the value of controlling your own thoughts. And if you dig yourself a hole, you have to dig yourself back out of that hole.
Yeah, I agree.
So if you say something to somebody you know is maybe bending the truth slightly, and they call you out on it, well, you've dug your hole. You're in the bed. You've got to lay in it now, and that applies to everything and anything. So at work, for instance, if I can say that I'm going to set a set price for somebody, and it doesn't materialize, well, then I'm the one that has to get myself out of that situation. So a self-protection thing is, you know me very well now. I'm a very black and white person. This is what it is, or it's not that what it is. And that's a protection thing for me. So as to the question of sort of like what have I been doing, and I think the issue is it loses after so many things. You can't control the news. So what do? You either sit there and you just look at it and you go, Christ, the world's a crap place at the moment, and you get yourself in a downer about it. Or you can manage it, e.g. delete the Daily Mail app off your phone.
Yeah.
Which is what I did.
Yeah. Do you know what? I do get that. So to your point about, hang on, I've got to pause there because everybody knows I have a dog and I can hear him doing something he shouldn't be doing. Chase! There he is, running over. So yeah, to that point, I do resonate because I have certainly cared about what other people have thought growing up, and the level of the way that's
detrimental.
Yeah, that the way that has been detrimental to my mental health has been astronomical.
Yeah.
You know, the way I've allowed people's opinions to dictate so much into my life, and I look back at it now. I'm in the exact same boat as you. It's taken me many years to figure out what the fuck is going on when it comes to the way my mind works, and it's only been in recent years where I've actually figured out the way my mind works, and you know, looking back now, I've just wondered why the fuck was I, first of all, taught to be like that?
Yeah.
Because everybody's a product of their environment.
Yeah.
And secondly, why did I feed into that? You know, why couldn't I see it? And that's the thing. I couldn't see it until it got so bad where other people around me and therapists were like, actually, have you looked at it from this perspective?
Yeah.
Why are you, you know, just feeding yourself what other people say?
Yeah,
because it doesn't matter.
It's keeping up the Joneses, essentially, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I can use an example for you. So, maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, for some reason I decided I wanted to buy some Yeezys. Okay, Yeezys. I bought them. They're not a cheap pair of shoes by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah,
and I wore them probably less than 10 times each pair. And then they've sat there in my wardrobe. I've just looked at them because they're not particularly comfortable. I've sort of looked at them now. I'm like, they're quite ugly. And I've now come to I've come to a stage where I'm like, well, I want to sell them.
Actually, I did see you put that on your story.
Yeah, and I was like, why the hell did I buy them? Yeah, and I am quite a spontaneous person when it comes to that sort of stuff. But I think recently, and the lockdowns, I should say, have prevented us from, I say this. So it's not allowed us to go out to shop. But you have allowed us.
But you have convenience.
That's you do have Amazon for one. Yeah. And shops like that. But I like to see things before I buy them. So to be honest, I took a big punt on my Jeep. I didn't see my Jeep before I bought my Jeep.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest outlay I've ever made in my entire life. So I took a hell of a punt on that. But I have instead, because I can't see it and I can't feel it and I can't be near it, I haven't spent that money.
Yeah,
and what has that actually taken away from my life? Absolutely, the grand sum of fuck all.
Yeah,
I'm not spending it on stupid shit. What I have done in this period of time with my money, I bought some stocks. I played the stock market. I'm not saying I'm the Wolf of Wall Street by any stretch of the imagination here. I put a couple of 750 quid in to start off with.
Yeah.
And just bought stocks and stuff that I liked. primarily, I like cars, so I bought Ferrari stocks, I bought Porsche stocks, I bought Neo, the electric car stock.
Yep.
Bought that. Just because to say I own Aston Martin stocks. And don't get me wrong, I got fucking lucky with Neo. I bought them at $3, I think, and I think I ended up selling them at high. Like, I think it was $45, $50.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was big change.
That's pretty good.
Pure coincidence. Literally pure coincidence. I saw them, they were cheap. I was like, I like cars. Electric are going somewhere. I'll buy them. I saw Tesla and thought Tesla were going places. What about Neo? Pure
Do you know what? I know nothing about stocks as well, but I saw a video with Kevin Hart. And have you seen Kevin Hart's documentary?
Which one?
On Netflix.
I don't think so, no.
Man, that guy and his interview on Joe Rogan's podcast, man, that guy is so inspirational. You walk away thinking you're on top of the world. And one of the things he was saying was, it's really simple. Like, the stock market isn't that complicated. You almost, in very, very, very layman terms, you must look at what's going to be needed in the future. Do people still need toothbrush? Good investment.
Yeah.
Do people still need will people still need really high emitting cars, pollution emitting cars? No. Bad investment.
Yeah, the principle I applied was luxury is never going to go away. So luxury brands will always do well because rich people like to spend their money. So then you look at it another way. So Apple, for instance, how much is a new iPhone? $1,000, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think the stock price isn't far off the cost of an iPhone, essentially.
Really, $1,000 a stock?
Yeah, I don't think it's far off. So you look at it, you go, okay, I could buy an iPhone, and in 2 years' time, it's going to be worth half the price of it, or a third of the price of it, or it could be worthless if you've broken it, for instance. But if you put that money you're going to buy an iPhone with and wax it on the stock, you could see growth. And granted, if you with those kinds of stocks,
you could easily lose your money. We're not giving financial advice here, but
you could lose your money, but the probability of it is less than you losing money buying an iPhone. You're guaranteed.
Yeah, because if you buy your iPhone, it's only going to depreciate,
unless Apple
right?
tomorrow shit their pants and disappear off the face of the planet, they're a company that's going to be staying around for the next 10 years, 20 years, I think. Everything, to your point, everything is you're guessing essentially in the stock market anyway. But so for people, instead of buying that Louis Vuitton bag, buy an LVMH stock, and you're more than likely going to go up because there are other people who had that mindset that you had to buy that stock, but have bought the clothing instead.
Yeah.
So essentially, you're making money off your mates going out. All these I was going down a slippery slope at one point where I was trying to buy flash shit. Like my watch, for instance. I bought that about 2 years ago when I was buying the Yeezys and all that sort of stuff, because I was in quite a dark place, may I add, by the way.
Okay.
And now I look at it and I'm like,
what did it actually bring me?
The time.
Yeah.
In short, looking at the time, I use it as a reminder now, if I'm being really honest.
Okay.
And I'm wearing it today, and I'll say this: I'm wearing it today because I was having a shit day today.
Okay.
I woke up this morning. It was. You just have one of those days, and I wore it as a reminder of where I have been in the past.
Okay, I like that.
So
I like that.
That's why I put it on.
It's a battle scar.
Yeah, in short, it is an expensive one. But
and just talking about that moment where you were in a dark place, what was your mindset in getting out? How did you pull yourself out of that dark place? Because there are a lot of people out there that do spend money to compensate for mass insecurities, mass,
You're describing me 2 years ago very well.
Yeah, that's what people do, and a lot of people do that, and I see that on Instagram all the time.
Yeah, but that is the exact reason why people do it. If you go back 50, 60 years. Well, not even that long. You go back to pre-Instagram life, pre-YouTube.
Let's say we're talking early 90s.
Yeah.
Since that's an era we can kind of both speak to.
Yeah. life was better.
Do you know what?
It
I
was
do
simpler.
agree. I do agree.
Like the only if you were that bothered about keeping up with people and keeping up with like the latest and greatest, you would only worry about your next door neighbours.
Yeah,
You would worry about the cars parked on their drive and the house and the extension and the windows they've just got and all that sort of stuff. Now, if you look at luxury brands and how they've changed their approach, you look back in the day, people that bought expensive, catwalk level dresses were high members of society that simply had that money to spend on a nice dress, or people that actually truly enjoyed fashion. So there is one way of looking at it. There are people out there who invest in cars and watches.
Yes,
And
but a BMW M5 from 2015 is not an investment.
I can't comment, to be honest, because I have a 2016 Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT, which is about to go through the floor in value.
Yeah,
I know it is. The reason I got it was because I have an old Alfa Romeo, which I believe is an investment.
Right.
And I wanted something that was reliable, as in bulletproof reliable, because the Alfa, every time I looked at it, broke down. Comfy, and these things are made for the huge open roads of the US, just to cruise up and down.
So if there is a zombie apocalypse, you're okay.
Yeah, and basically. I want something a bit different.
Mm-hmm. I think that's why I got my Mini.
Yeah.
Because when I told my brother I was getting a Mini, he was like, "You're getting a Mini?" And my brother has a Audi S3.
Oh, him and 30,000 other people in the country.
Yeah, and the Mini was just a bit of. I know loads of people have a Mini, but for a guy to have a Mini, it's like a little go-kart, right?
I think I don't. One thing I've noticed, and this is in the car. I'm going to use the car industry and car enthusiasts. There are different kinds of enthusiasts that you see. So, for instance, I have an old Alfa and I have a Jeep. Around London, there are a lot of people that love their cars. And the other day, pure coincidence, I pulled into a road and I ended up in the middle of a convoy of Nissan GTRs, M5s, M2s, Audi RS3, Abarth, Fiat Abarth 500, what they all 505s. And I looked at every single one of those cars and was like, my car is rarer than yours. Like,
that's
you go
true,
to
right?
you go to a car meet and you would be able to. You could take a bouncy ball, throw it, and that ball would hit the same car probably 3 times.
I like that analogy.
There's no. What I like now and what I think is a good thing to be is individual. And you can, don't get me wrong, you can customize a car to the hilt. That's fine, but in essence, it's the same car.
Don't you think Instagram is like the growth of the death of individuality?
Spit it out, mate.
Don't you think? I'm going to change the word because when you can't type a word and spell it right, you just change it. Instagram is the death of uniqueness.
Yes, and everyone thinks
and the
unique.
driver of globalization.
Absolutely,
individual people.
If people haven't realised yet that Instagram is just an advertising platform now.
Well, what people do is showcase. It's a gallery of their best moments.
But mate, so here's a question for you. You go on your Instagram now, how many of the pictures that you see are from individuals, or how many of the pictures you see are from companies that you follow, or
like
pages,
sponsored
pages.
posts? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's bombarded by sponsored posts, and it's not even companies; it's individuals doing sponsored posts.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Why are you putting money and pushing yourself out?
But don't differentiate them. They are a company. They are a company of themselves. They are just a company. That's what they are. They're money making. These people that are like influencers, they are companies amongst themselves. They are,
which is
they
true.
Are, they are
yeah,
just a
that's
company.
a valid point.
There's no. You know what they chase, mate. There's no. The individuality that you see on Instagram now, the 10 a penny. People that think they're being individual. I'm not being individual by starting up a YouTube page. There are
but
thousands.
You could argue because you're doing it. It's your own unique perspective on a commonly distributed
but
theme.
You could also argue, why does my opinion matter to anybody?
Well, that's the whole thing about creating content.
Yeah.
Like when I relaunched this podcast, I went through the same thing. Why the fuck would anybody listen to what I have to say?
Because people want to listen to you about you or about what the conversations are, my YouTube page is about my journey with my car, or
that's
with
exactly,
my mate's
yeah,
journey with his
yeah.
car. If people want to pay attention to that, please feel free to. Like, I would ask questions. Honestly, engage with us. But what we do not want to do essentially is just be like, we're doing it for the money, or we're doing it because we want to be YouTube famous or anything like that. Like, honestly, if we get we've got 200 and something subscribers, I am blown away that there's that many people in this world that want to hear me chat an absolute waffle about any cars, let alone my own car.
Yeah.
Like, I'm blown away by it. Every single follower or subscriber, I am doth my cap to you. I really appreciate it. Instagram has been the ruination of this world. It has ruined the planet.
I think one of my biggest issues is what Instagram does is it dilutes the credibility of real content creators.
Yep.
Because anybody and everybody can have blogger, model, whatever it is, digital creator on their Instagram bio.
Mm-hmm.
But all they're doing is using it as a way of driving their ego, or their self-worth,
we can
almost by projecting that to other people. But there are some really, really credible content creators that do not get the recognition they deserve, because there are so many people out there that are creating Instagram pages. When I see blogger, the first thing I ask is, where the fuck is your blog?
Yeah.
Where is your blog? You are not a blogger.
Yeah. I think if you... Do you know what? It's really tough, and we can sit here and people could call us hypocrites because we're sat recording a podcast about just crap, essentially. And if you went back 25 years, these weren't a thing. You had a radio station, you had a TV program, you had the papers, the media.
But on the other side of it, that is a pretty cool thing.
It is. And
how
the world is changing.
How an individual can put out content.
Yeah, and to add value to anything.
Because everyday content.
Yeah.
That's the brighter side of it, right? Anybody, like, I couldn't do this 10, maybe 5 years ago I probably could, but 10 years ago I probably couldn't do this. And I think that is such an awesome thing as well. Looking at the positives of it, I love that. Yeah,
but do you know what I would say? I saw a meme about this, but it's actually a very valid point. I say after just absolutely haranguing Instagram, I saw a meme. That everyone seems to be starting a podcast at the moment, specifically guys.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that, I think, because there's not very many opportunities that me and you would get to sit and just air our thoughts. If we went to the pub, I think bravado and traditional thoughts would segue the conversations. I think you would end up talking about work and love life and all that sort of stuff.
Work, women, cars, going out, getting pissed.
Yeah. But I think there's a stigma attached to actually talking about actual meaningful things. And going back to when I was in sort of like I was in a rough place. I wasn't speaking honestly and openly to anyone, really.
So I think when I had my rough place, one of the most difficult things was I kept it quiet for a year from all my friends and family.
Yeah.
Because I found it really difficult to almost I had the mentality of, I'm a man, I don't go through this.
Yep.
Man, I'm a man, I can handle this. Man, I'm a man, I'm strong enough to deal with this. Man, snap out of it. This is bullshit.
Was this the first time that you'd ever had I'm presuming thoughts about things, and was it the first time you'd had like bad thoughts?
Yeah, the first time something triggered, and I was just like, man, I can and I would like to think now I'm very what's the word when you have an understanding of your flaws and you're positive. I'm
self-aware.
Yeah, I'm very self-aware of what is happening now, and but it's taken a real journey to get to that stage where you acknowledge, actually, I'm overthinking that because of an insecurity. For a guy to say that, it's difficult. For a guy to admit that that is difficult.
Yeah.
Like to almost admit you're wrong and it's you with the problem.
Yeah.
Not sometimes
Yeah.
that insecurity does stem from other people, but at the end of the day, it's you with the imbalance, be it chemical or be it psychological or emotional.
I had this conversation earlier actually as well with my sister, but women and men are very different. Physically, emotionally, mentally, we're very different. For guys, I think we find it very hard to be in touch with our emotions.
Yeah.
I don't mean crying. I don't mean to outwardly show emotions. What I mean is actually know what our emotions mean to us.
Yeah. Do you know what? That's a really good way of putting it.
For me, when I was in my dark period fairly recently, when I was younger, I also I'd been through something similar just due to stuff in the family, and I was extremely lucky that I had a very, very good person to speak to, a counsellor, who taught me a lot of very good techniques to, if I ever felt down or if I ever felt in a certain way, to use these techniques to bring myself out of the dark places or the patches. You know you're in a dark place when you know what you should be doing, but you're choosing to do the opposite thing. And I think you'd have done the same thing.
It's almost out of ego.
It's self-punishment. If you know what you should be doing, your brain's telling you.
Yeah,
that you should be doing something.
I get that. It's almost like you saying, I know what to do, but I'm not going to do it because
why?
I'm
I don't know why.
I'm gonna act like it's not a problem.
Yeah.
And then I'm not going to do it because you almost don't believe that. You're almost not admitting it to yourself. It's almost like avoidance behavior.
Yeah.
Right. It's gotten really dark in here, really morbid. It's almost like avoiding behavior. But
self-awareness is key. And I do think sometimes self-awareness also gets confused with arrogance. Self-aware people... No, actually, no. Do you know what? That's complete bullshit. Self-awareness allows you to be happy in yourself.
I wouldn't say it's arrogance.
No, I've just thought what I said. Self-awareness is the ability to be happy in yourself, and I think that allows people to just enjoy what is going on around them and enjoy the moments and stuff like that. I think confidence and arrogance get confused with two things, and I think if you are good at something, you can be confident. Arrogance is a shield. Arrogance is a shield. I used to be fairly arrogant in a lot of things. It's a shield because I was desperately unhappy in the background.
Yeah. You're compensating for your unhappiness, right?
Yeah. So I do think for guys out, do you know what as well? I'll say this, Sonny. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I think maybe in different communities as well, it's worse. I think it's worse.
Well, in the Indian community, I think for a long time, mental health just did not exist.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me rephrase that. A poor mental health did not exist. There's a huge problem. Do you know what? You could go down a rabbit hole, but there is a huge problem with alcoholism.
Yeah.
With I tell you what, if you, Ollie, as an outsider and as an Englishman, or from an English-British background, saw how...
I am white British, by the way. I will put that on. I am white British, so you can call me white British.
So you, Ollie, as a white boy...
Yeah. Yeah. I'm nearly opaque as well, so...
Yeah. If you saw the way so many Indian families lived just because of a cultural thing, you would be astonished. You would clinically diagnose situations as domestic abuse, but in many cultures it's just the way families are, because that's the way they've grown up to be from generations and generations. You will diagnose drinking of males, and predominantly Punjabi males, as alcoholism.
Yeah.
But in a Punjabi household, it's completely acceptable.
Yeah. So if you look at alcohol is a really interesting thing because it hides so much stuff. It really does. And I think if you look at if you look at the lockdowns and stuff, okay, and obviously alcohol sales have gone through the roof. Yeah. That's a damning indictment on the state of the country's mental health. That people need to have alcohol to get through this, that numbing, forgetful chemical, essentially, because all it is alcohol.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, it's a poison, but we'll skip over that for the beginning. The fact that you need that to get through it and just drink yourselves into oblivion just to get through a couple of, now granted it's many, many months, but that's a statement on itself. And for some people, it would have got a shit ton worse. I know, for instance, that you saw me, Sonny, about a year and 2 years ago. 2 years ago. You've been here long. We've known each other longer than 2 years. It was 2 years ago. When I was, to the outside world, just living my best life, enjoying myself.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. But on the inside, I was suicidal.
Was it shortly, and we can edit it out if you don't want to keep it in, but was it shortly after your ex?
So, let me rephrase it so it's not that part of it, but
Okay.
I can use an example. So, something in my life happened for me to realise how I was behaving.
Yeah, I get that.
When I had that realisation, it made me worse, not better.
Okay.
And then when I stood and looked in the mirror, I thought I was one person, when in fact I wanted to be somebody else.
That one person, is it the public facade you were giving other people, your friends, your family?
Yes. Yeah, that was the Olly's living his best life. He's going out, enjoying himself. He's having a good time. He's always very happy and cheerful.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. And that was the facade that everyone saw. The people that may have been, I'm talking about parents or like siblings, or very few people would have seen the questions were asked, and it was, it's fine.
You'll snap out of it. It's just a phase.
Yeah,
it's just a
fine,
phase.
it's fine.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that. I was telling them it was fine, but they sort of, more and more questions were asked.
Okay, so this wasn't other people telling you to snap out of it.
No, this was, they were saying, are you okay?
Okay.
But I was going, I'm fine, don't worry about it, I'm fine. And then, I got to I can tell you the story as to when I was at my darkest point. It's quite a funny story.
Okay.
Funny in hindsight. So what took me to the darkest point was I was in Sainsbury's and I wanted to make sausage, mash and beans.
Okay.
Sainsbury's did not have the sausages that I wanted. And it was at that point I had a breakdown. The sausages in Sainsbury's sent me over the edge. At that point, I went down a dark spiral and did things I shouldn't have done.
Obviously, it's not the sausages. It was
everything else. That was
that was just have you ever seen a movie Falling Down with Michael Douglas?
No.
The movie where he's in a shitty job, he's in a shitty relationship, and one day, sitting in traffic, he loses his shit. He goes to McDonald's, has asked for a burger, and then he goes, and they give him his burger, and he's like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
I want one that looks like the picture on the screen.
Yeah.
And he loses his shit.
Tyson Fury said something very similar, actually. He said when he was at his darkest point, it's very well documented, the boxer Tyson Fury is.
Yeah.
What he went through. He was at the highest point professionally in his career when he was at the lowest point mentally and physically. And he said he was driving his Ferrari down the road thinking he should be on top of the world. Yeah, every time he drove past a bridge, he thought about driving into it. And that's when he knew he had to get help. And for me, it was the sausages was when I knew I needed to get help.
Do you know what the worst thing is? Is that so many people need to go to such an extreme in order to realise they need help.
Yeah.
And
by the way, I encourage anybody who may be having thoughts of some sort, maybe not the worst of the worst, but just thoughts in general of downness.
Yeah.
If talking to someone fucking helps.
I think
like this, I'm finding this a very cathartic conversation we're having now.
Yeah, and I think my experience of getting help is it was simply them going, okay, this is your situation, but have you looked at it from this perspective?
Yeah, you get stuck in your own thoughts, don't you?
And they go, and I'm like, no, I haven't. And also, the realization thoughts are thoughts. They're not reality. A thought is not going to physically harm you. It's the way you're reacting to the thought is what harms you.
Yes.
And
Very
that's
true.
like the biggest... that has transformed my life. You know...
So on that, okay, so I had all the counselling that I needed, which helped me. But one person said one thing to me once, which changed my complete outlook on life.
Okay.
You know him as well. A friend of ours called Ted Lee.
Oh, yeah?
I can't remember exactly what it was he said, but I was getting really wound up.
Shout out to Big Ted.
Yeah, Big Ted. I was getting really wound up about something in the office, and he was sitting opposite me at the time, and he was like, "What is the matter?" And I was like, just reeled off this spiel of stuff that I usually reel off.
Yeah.
He just sat there, just listening to me. And he said, "It's like, why does that matter?" And I went, "It just does." And he was like, "No, but why?"
Yeah, give me an answer.
Yeah, like why? I was like, I mean, it doesn't. And he went, "So why the fuck are you letting it bother you?" And at that point, I realised that I can't remember what the subject was about, but I think it was something that somebody else had done that wound me up. And he was like, "It's got nothing to do with you. Like, just focus on you, and it'll be fine."
I think you know, that's like, in layman terms, that's the reality of things. Half the things we worry about, do you know what? Not even half. I would say almost 90% of the things we worry about do not even matter in the grand scheme of life.
Yeah. There are certain things you should be worried about in life, e.g. the health of your parents.
Yep.
Your health in general.
Yep.
And the ones you love and care for.
Yep.
Everything else, really, is by the by.
It doesn't matter, right?
You can get another job. You can, in my respect, I can buy another car if I need to, if I have the money. If I don't, there's always the bus.
Yeah.
To get around.
You know, when we look at things, I speak about this a lot, and when we look at things in perspective, things aren't that bad. If you have to take the bus, there's someone who has to walk.
Yeah.
You know, if you have to walk, there's someone who can't walk.
Yeah. But there will be that one person out there who is walking for their life. They have to do it because if they don't, they will have no money, have no food, have no shelter.
Yeah. So it is all about perspective, and that's pretty true.
That was good around that.
Do you feel good? Do you feel like this was a good therapy session?
I wouldn't say therapy. It's two mates having a good chat. I think that's
okay. I like that.
That's
I like that. I think
a good thing.
I think nowadays that can go a long way.
It can. It really can. And unfortunately, I think in the situation we're in currently, and the not being able to see people physically, I do think physically interacting and seeing people, like, no matter how many Zoom calls you have,
it's not the same.
It's not the same as either A, sharing a beer with someone, or B, having a cup of tea with somebody.
I agree.
In some respects, if you like
I
tea.
do agree.
So yeah, I think what I would say, if you want to speak to somebody, speak to somebody. I will finish with that on this matter. Speak to someone.
Okay, let's bring this into a positive light. So
yeah,
you know, we're in 2021. This is the start of 2021. What are you excited about? What's coming down the line that you're like, yes, that's something I can't wait for. That's something I'm positive about. What is it?
Yeah, good question. I think firstly for coronavirus to fuck off.
Yeah,
I think
fuck off coronavirus.
Yeah, I think that's
bitch.
I think that's a thing to say. And it's worth noting as well at this point. Obviously, it's taken a lot of lives. So
yeah,
we think about it, but it does need to go away. We cannot live with this for the rest of eternity. So that will. For me personally,
I do have some faith. This will go away.
Yeah. It will, people. It will. For me personally, I think seeing friends and family again is the main thing for me. Interacting with people eventually.
Yeah.
But also, what it has highlighted to me as well is that all of us have a lot more capacity for other things. Once everything's stripped away and removed from, and you actually work out what is valuable to you and what isn't valuable to you, you do have a lot more capacity to do the things that you do want to do, and I think that's very important. If you want to do something, just do it, in short.
Yeah, I agree.
Me and the YouTube thing, I thought about it for a while. I was more worried about what people thought about it than actually doing it.
Do you know what? That's exactly what I went through
And-
when kicking this podcast
Yeah,
off.
and it was when I had nothing to do and I sat there and I went, I don't give a fuck anymore. I just want to do something that I'm enjoying.
I always say try and follow the 33% rule.
What is that, Sonny?
Well, a quarter of the people won't give a shit about what you're
Yeah.
doing. The other quarter won't care.
Yeah.
But there is a quarter that will care.
Yeah.
Just do it for that quarter.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Most people actually won't give a shit, but then there's so many people out there. You know, if 1% on the planet, if 1% of the people give a shit,
Yeah.
that's a lot of fucking people.
That is a lot of people, yeah. 0.1% is a lot of people. Yeah, so that's one thing but the other thing as well, and very recently I discovered this as well for me. So I'd been on a path to save to buy a house or buy a flat in central London. To the point where I put an offer in on somewhere and was trying to secure the place. And it just didn't sit right.
What do you mean? It didn't sit right?
I think there's a massive pressure in the UK specifically, because I think a lot of countries don't have this pressure, because a lot of them renting culture is not frowned upon as much. Like here, if you rent, you're seen as poor, or you're seen as unsuccessful, or you're seen as you're just doing it until you can buy a house. Now, I met a guy once in one of my old jobs where he was a multi-millionaire that still rented. His main place was he was renting. I was like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you doing that? He went, well, I have a massive property portfolio that I can utilise to my advantage to make me money. So why the fuck would I want to live where the hell I want to live? If I want to live in a serviced apartment that I've got everything and the sun available to me, I will live in an apartment that is available to me that I don't have to lift a finger for.
Yeah.
I do think the process of buying a house is fucking appalling.
Yeah, I do agree. Like you said, I've gone through the same process as well, and it's really difficult.
Yeah.
Even with COVID making things a lot worse.
It's not something that really appeals to me now. Having the small experience, I will look to buy investment properties. That is for sure.
Yeah.
To have that residual income.
I read this tweet about Elon Musk saying that he had millions and millions of pounds or dollars, and he put some in SpaceX, some in Tesla, and some in some other venture, and then he actually had to borrow money for rent.
Yeah. Have you read his book?
I haven't read his book.
So
no.
I've got it. You can borrow it. And he, for I would say most of his professional life, he's been broke.
Yeah.
Even though to the outside world he has been essentially a multi-millionaire.
But that's what people don't see. That's the big thing. People don't see like the hard work that goes behind. You know, people kind of just see what's in the media.
That's because of social media.
It is, and do you know what? I know we've covered this already, but I do think like the generation that's about to come, they're gonna
Good luck
struggle
to you.
through some shit.
Yeah.
They really, really are. And you know, like you, and you mentioned this earlier. I've turned off all notifications on Instagram, on a lot of the applications on my phone, because it fucks you up. It really does.
Yeah, it does.
And it's so easy. And do you know what? Anyone who says that it doesn't, do you know what? It's a lie.
You're lying to yourself.
Bollocks.
If you look at
bollocks that you're not addicted to it.
Look
because
at
almost everybody is.
Yeah, look at old people. Just look at old people.
Yeah.
Whoever it is, your nan, your granddad, or an old person walking down the street. I always wondered why they weren't bored. Like, they can sit in an armchair and just stare out into the distance.
Because they're content.
Exactly. They are happy with their thoughts, they have lived their life, and they're content.
And do you know what? That's the one thing that's ruining dating as well, because so many people are looking at, oh yeah, but you know, I'm dating her or I'm dating him, but you know, I want a guy or girl that looks like that.
Yeah.
You know, but not knowing like that.
The grass is not always greener.
Is probably like so fucked up.
Yeah.
And worse. And you know, dating is hard.
Very.
Nowadays. You know, I think about my brother. My brother married I'm not gonna say childhood sweetheart, but his teenage sweetheart. And they've been together since they were 18. You know, when I look at that, I'm just like, you know, a lot of people in my family almost compared me to him. and you know what Indian marriage culture is like, and you know
Yeah.
you haven't experienced it, but you're around people who have been through that.
I've been to an Indian wedding or a couple of Indian weddings.
Yeah.
It's absolute chaos.
And they actually, I have to say, Indian weddings are the best fucking weddings out there. They're fucking manic.
I would not disagree with you.
Yeah, they are crazy. But you know, sometimes the pressure that's put on people Indians to get married is crazy.
So here's a question for you, okay? As an Indian man, one thing I noticed about the Indian weddings that I've been to is that not a lot of it is done for the bride and groom, and it is predominantly done for the families and the people around them.
Yeah.
Obviously, as a culture, I think for Indians, I think happens quite a lot. It's a show thing.
A lot of people get married, and do you know what? I remember meeting a girl I'm not going to mention her name because I think I do have
Dave?
her on my Instagram. Trace.
Oh.
I remember meeting a girl in Shoreditch, and we just walked past each other, and I was like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" Just a spontaneous meet. We were catching up, and I was asking her, what's going on with your life, what's happening right now, and she's like, she's getting married, and I was like, that's amazing, you're getting married, like, great news, congratulations. And I was like, are you excited? And she was like, meh. I was like, why are you not excited? This is supposed to be the most precious moment of your life.
Yeah.
And she was like, kind of doing it just to make my parents happy. And I'm moving to Birmingham. And I was like,
oh God.
Why?
Yeah.
Like, why would you do that just to make your parents happy?
Yeah.
I do understand that in Indian culture, like, parents are so important, but I can't imagine it. I can't imagine marrying someone that I'm not 100% into.
I think one thing gets lost sometimes, and I know I don't have direct experience of growing up in Indian culture or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I think what I can say for all parents is that parents just want the best for their kids, and they want their kids to be happy and healthy. And I just think do
you know what? For the most part, yes, but there are significant numbers of family members that are actually doing it because of what other people think.
Yeah. So I agree with that. Yeah. But what I'm saying is the mother-father-child relationship.
Yeah.
If you went off and did your own thing, and God forbid they disowned you or something like that, I think the regret would be with the parents, not with the children.
Yeah, I agree.
And eventually,
but many parents will be way too egotistical to admit that they're regretting it.
Yeah, but you say that on their deathbed.
True. But then it's too late.
It is.
That's the thing. It's too late.
It is too late.
This is what I'm saying. Do your own thing.
Yeah.
Because chances are, I can speak from family member experience where people weren't happy with a marriage, and then, now they're married, no one gives a fuck.
Yeah.
Like no one cares.
Where do you think that culture? We'll use the Indian culture as an example. Where did that culture of caring more about other people than just?
I think good question, actually. I think there's a big culture about doing things that make themselves look prestigious and good, and almost being the perfect family, abiding by the Indian cultural traditions that are out there.
Yeah.
So like historically, if you were to marry an Indian girl, man, her parents would probably never talk to her because you're not Indian.
And white.
Yeah. Like, they would go fucking nuts, and it's even worse. Like, if you're black, that's even worse, because that's the way the Indian culture has grown up.
Yeah.
Now, however, that is being way more diluted. And maybe that's just the Western culture, because I'm born and bred in the UK, but then
East
but I still grow up. I've still grown up with a lot of Indian values.
Yeah.
So there's a conflicting kind of, you've got British values and you've got Indian values. But then to your question, I think there's just been an Indian culture of respecting your parents and your parents dictating a lot of the things that happen in your life.
But that's just that's repetition then, isn't it?
Of what they've learned from their parents, right? And there's also a level of prestige where it's important for the family to look like a perfect family.
Yeah.
where,
even if it's not the case.
yes, and also having, in Indian families, in previous generations, divorce is very, very rare.
Yeah.
They would stay with an abusive husband because they would be more worried about what other family members would say instead of looking at their own happiness.
Yeah.
Which is, if you think about it, fucking crazy, right?
I think, I don't want to go down the religious standpoint because it can cause, it's a whole different ballgame, religion. We won't get into that. But what I will say is, I think there's a lot of factors into it. But when you start looking at a modern Western culture and how religion plays maybe less and less of a part in it, I think it's not a coincidence. But yeah, I can only sort of talk from a white Caucasian British family where
White Caucasian British family.
Yeah.
Ollie, listen, we're an hour and 35 minutes in.
Well, I can keep going if you want.
No, this has been awesome. I want you on the show again. Sure.
Well, I think we've got plans to do stuff for work anyway, haven't we? So
we do, and then I'd love to have you back on again in a couple of weeks' time, just to talk and be part of the group chat. Ollie, it's been a fucking pleasure talking to you.
Thanks,
it's been a good laugh, and thank you for joining me on the In the Group Chat podcast. And any final words?
Thank you for having me. I'm sure we will have you and your mini on the YouTube channel soon anyway.
We certainly will.
It's been a pleasure. It's been I'll leave it. It's been a pleasure, because otherwise I'll start crying and we don't want to see that. So, yeah, thank you.
Amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the In the Group Chat podcast with Sunny Singh.